Advent is often painted in soft light, but the true story is one of radical humility and tension-filled hope. In this episode, we strip away the nostalgia to discover that waiting isn't passive delay. It is active spiritual work. We explore this journey through 4 key passages. Philippians chapter 2, verses 5 through 11. We witness the anticlimax of a king who emptied himself kenosis to serve, modeling power through obedience. In Psalm 130 and Isaiah chapter 40, verse 21 through 31, we learn the secret of Kava, an active waiting that pulls tight like a rope to renew our strength and keeps watch for the morning. And then we'll look at 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 to 9. We find the living hope that anchors our souls and refines our faith through every trial. Join us as we find an objective anchor for the messy middle ground of life.
Today, we are taking a deep breath and really focusing on the sources you provided about the Advent season. But our mission, I think, isn't to look at the glossy holiday cards. We're trying to push past the typical imagery, the gentle candles, the static nativity scenes, and explore something, well, much more challenging and, frankly, much more active.
That's the striking thing in this material, isn't it? We're drawing from some really rich reflections, scripture study notes, and some very vulnerable personal testimonies.
All from a community gathering, right?
Exactly. All shared in that context. And when we talk about Advent, which, it comes from the Latin adventus, meaning coming or arrival, the sources just refuse to let us sit back and wait.
Right. They force us to ask, what does it actually mean to prepare for an arrival that changes? Well, everything. Because the preparation, as it's revealed here, seems to require 2 things that are just deeply intertwined. A state of waiting with absolute expectation.
Yes.
And a radical foundational commitment to self-giving humility.
Exactly. Preparation isn't passive. And to understand that, you really have to start at the beginning, the first Advent, because that story itself, it's the ultimate definition of humility.
Okay, let's unpack that. Let's dive straight into the narrative that Luke's gospel sets up as summarized in the sources. What stands out immediately is how the sources emphasize details that. They just directly challenge our expectations of how God works.
Well, Luke uses a very, very intentional literary device to set the stage. He begins not with glory, but with impossibility.
Okay.
He introduces Zechariah and Elizabeth. They're old, they're childless, and that's a direct, unmistakable parallel to Abraham and Sarah, the founders of Israel.
So he's intentionally echoing that story.
He is. By using this echo, Luke is basically signaling to everyone hearing the story, God is about to do something absolutely foundational again. Get ready for a restart.
And yet when that restart finally happens, the circumstances are, shockingly lowly. We're taken out of the political and religious center, out of Jerusalem and into Galilee to focus on Mary, who's just an out-of-the-way, no-name girl.
The contrast is so deliberate, and the source material really pushed back against the sanitized images of the nativity. Think about the arrival itself.
The actual birth.
Yes, they couldn't find a guest room. The birth happens in a space for livestock. One of the notes specifically analyzed the word manger. It wasn't some beautifully carved wooden cradle. It was a grimy feeding trough.
Wow.
Probably made of stone or rough wood, sticky with animal residue. When the notes talk about finding the cleanest sheets to contrast with the messiness of the birth, it paints a picture of intense, demanding physical reality.
The humility is just baked right into the logistics of it. But the guest list for the birth is maybe the most powerful indicator of this great reversal that's taking place.
Absolutely. Who does God choose to announce this profound, world-changing event to first? Not kings, not priests, shepherds. And the sources remind us that shepherds were often considered marginalized, not very clean themselves. They lived in the wilderness, sometimes outside the boundaries of polite society, always dealing with the dirt and the grit of their profession.
So the working poor, the unwashed, the invisible people of their time.
Precisely. The image is profoundly challenging. God's kingdom was first revealed in what we might call the dirty places of the world, among the poor and the disregarded. This is the whole point. The power structure is being subverted right from the very start.
And Mary, the young woman at the center of all this, she captured that revolutionary idea instantly in her song. Our sources included parts where she sings about how God would bring down rulers from their thrones and exalt the poor and the humble. This wasn't just a sweet lullaby. This was, the declaration of a revolution. It was turning the whole world order upside down.
And if Christ's first coming establishes this principle, that true power flows from the marginalized, and that service is the key well, that leads us directly into the blueprint for the entire faith. And that blueprint is laid out so beautifully in the letter to the Philippians, chapter 2.
That passage.
Yeah.
Philippians 2.5:11. It's so foundational. It describes Jesus being in the very nature of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped,
but made himself nothing, taking the very nature of a servant. And the sources use that scripture to define humility not as a feeling, but as an action.
An action.
Yes. The way the study notes framed humility was really striking. It wasn't about, self-deprecation or feeling bad about yourself. It was defined as the active, intentional choice not to exploit whatever privileges, status, or knowledge you have to manipulate or control other people.
Wait, so this isn't about an emotional state. It's about operational choices. It's about how you treat people.
Yeah.
Can you give me a practical, maybe a non-political example of that? Choosing not to exploit status.
Sure. Think about a manager who has proprietary knowledge that pretty much guarantees them a promotion. Humility would be the choice not to hoard that knowledge or use it to subtly undermine colleagues.
But
instead to actively mentor and share that knowledge, looking, as the scripture says, to the interests of others before your own. It's a choice to empower the person next to you, even if it might threaten your own standing.
That makes it intensely difficult. And the sources, they didn't shy away from connecting this difficulty to the political sphere, referencing the constant cycles of bickering and seeking revenge we see today. That is the exact antithesis of this humility.
It is. The notes highlighted how difficult it is to choose to bless the one who may wrong us. Our natural inclination, especially in competitive arenas, is to repay insult with insult, to settle the score. But that radical self-giving choice is what foreshadows the future world. When Christ returns, that new world order will be governed by service, not by exploitation. It's this constant linking of the first advent, the birth of the servant, to the second advent, the return of the glorious king.
Okay, so if that servant attitude is the necessary blueprint for life, that leads us naturally to the question, how do we wait for the fulfillment of that world? And that brings us to the core Advent theme of hope. Our sources say this season calls us to lament the world's fractures while simultaneously choosing to live as people formed by God's future.
And this is where we have to be really precise about what biblical hope is, because it's fundamentally different from simple optimism, which is sort of our modern default setting.
Right.
Optimism is focused on hoping that circumstances, the odds, the economy, the politics, will somehow just work out for the best.
So it's a feeling that depends on what's happening outside of you.
Exactly. Biblical hope, on the other hand, is based purely on trusting in God's character and God's past faithfulness. Even when we look around and see no evidence things will get better, it's an act of will based on historical trust, not on predicting a positive outcome.
This is where it gets really insightful. When the sources dove into the Hebrew language to give some nuance to this concept of waiting, it turns out there are two different words for hope or waiting.
That's right. The simpler word is Yakle. It means simply to wait for. You see it when Noah had to Yakle for the floodwaters to recede. It's a necessary patience.
Okay.
But the profound word for active waiting, the word that really captures Advent, is Kava.
Kava. This is the one that introduces tension and agency, right?
It is. It's related to the word kav, which means cord or line. So when you hear kava, you should think of the tension in a cord that's pulled tight, like an archer pulling back a bowstring. It signifies a state of active tension and expectation until that moment of release. This waiting is just infused with energy.
So it's not passive sitting at all. It's the deliberate, focused effort that happens while you wait.
The farmer analogy that was used in the study notes illustrates this perfectly. A farmer who kavas for a good harvest of grapes isn't just sitting on their porch hoping the weather improves.
No, they're working.
They are diligently working, watering, pruning, pulling weeds. The insight here is crucial. Waiting with anticipation requires active diligence that's aligned with the outcome you want.
If we translate that to our daily lives, it means if you want peace in the world or reconciliation in a relationship, you can't just sit and wait for change to happen to you. You have to go out and do something that creates peace. This is the real hands-on work of waiting.
And this brings us right back to the practical reality of humility and trust. Because when you are diligently working toward a future peace, a better environment, personal healing, whatever it is, the hardest part is letting go of control over the timing and the ultimate outcome.
That letting go, that's where the act of trust comes in. If we frantically try to fix everything ourselves, we burn out and we often end up exploiting our status or knowledge in the process. True humility is trusting that our diligent work, when it's coupled with God's larger plan, will yield the promised future.
And part of that diligent work is the act of being vulnerable, which the sources also discussed. It's very hard to Kava alone. The community notes mention sharing personal joys that follow tragedy. That act of vulnerability is a critical part of self-giving. When you share hope despite your own grief or struggle, you're giving strength to others.
That makes the hope contagious.
Yes.
And the difficulty of choosing that path over resentment was brought to life by this really powerful personal testimony shared during the gathering.
Oh, yeah.
It involved a job injury. A person slipped on ice because a coworker had failed to order rock salt despite being warned multiple times.
And the person who shared this story described being just consumed by the desire for revenge for months. They used this incredible analogy of lugging around a backpack that's full of rocks.
Wow, yeah.
Just weighed down by the constant thoughts of retaliation and anger. That resentment was heavier than the injury itself.
That metaphor really sticks with you. Resentment is exhausting. It takes a massive amount of energy to hold on to a grudge and mentally build your case for payback.
And the turning point, they realized, came through reading the scripture and truly confronting this principle of radical humility. They understood they had a choice. They could keep carrying those rocks, or they could choose the incredibly difficult act of actively blessing the person who offended them. That choice to speak and pray good things for the offender is the hardest form of self-giving humility. It forces you to drop the rocks and move forward, trusting in a future where service, not settling scores, is the rule.
So it's not just forgiveness, it's an active choice of love toward the person who wronged you. That really synthesizes everything we've talked about. As we wait for the second Advent Christ's glorious return, we are called to actively change ourselves now to be suitable for that new world. The sources were clear. This change isn't just a gift to enjoy, but a profound transformation through fire to become pure gold.
And that transformation is necessary. If we enter a paradise still equipped with the desire to exploit status, demand revenge, and act out of selfishness, well, we risk ruining the paradise all over again. The change is the work itself, driven by the tension of Kava, that tension between the world as it is and the world as it will be.
And it's fascinating that this ancient spiritual work is still manifesting in contemporary ways. One of the participants shared that they'd actually used the themes we've discussed today, the act of waiting, the tension, to create an AI-generated song.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, called Waiting on the Lord. It just shows that people are processing these deep concepts using the tools available today, continuing that work of active trust and humility.
We've really covered a whole spectrum here, from the gritty revolutionary reality of the manger to the intentional diligence required by Kava, all anchored in this principle that true, lasting strength is found in self-giving humility.
So the core learning for you is clear. Biblical waiting is patient. Active trust built on historical faithfulness. It's not passive wishful thinking. And that waiting has to be fundamentally rooted in the radical foundation of Christ's self-giving service.
Let me leave you with a concept that was mentioned repeatedly in the study notes, drawn directly from Scripture. You have an inheritance that never can perish, spoil, or fade, kept in heaven for you. That security is absolute. It cannot be threatened by your current circumstances or the difficulties you face while you wait. So, here's your challenge as we wrap up this deep dive. Based on this principle of active Kava waiting, can you identify one small, deliberate act of trust you can practice today? Something that works directly against your specific anxiety or your tendency to grasp for control. Our hope is in the Lord, so just keep on looking up.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll catch you next time.
When worldly praise doth tempt my soul to grasp and hold it fast, I mind the one who made me whole and cast his his glory past. He emptied self, he took the low, a servant meek and mild. So let my heart refuse the foe to curse and be reviled. I will not render blow for blow, but bless the one who wrongs. Oh, let me wait upon the Lord, thy unwearied God of might, whose strength doth mount me up to soar and vanquish fear and night. He calls the starry host by name. His power shall not be spent. Upon his grace I fix my claim. On him my life is lent. From out the depths my bitter cry, O Lord, I plead to thee. If thou shouldst mark iniquity, who then could ever flee? But with thee, Lord, there is full grace, that I may stand in it all. I watch for hope, I seek thy face by thy redeeming law. My soul doth wait for thee, O God, as watchmen wait the morn. Oh, let me wait upon the Lord, thy unwearied God of might, whose strength doth mount me up to soar and vanquish fear and night. He calls the starry host by name. His power shall not be spent. Upon his grace I fix my claim. On him my life is lent. My human strength, it surely fails, like youth it fades away. The busy runner's might prevails, but only for a day. Yet those who in the Lord repose, their power shall be renewed. They run, they walk, their spirit grows with heavenly food.